This is the Rock Matrix 4 4-zone amplifier with matrix source routing. This matrix receiver and amplifier is the perfect brain to control all the audio in your space, whether you're using it in your home, office space, conference room, retail store, gym, restaurant, or more. Now, since this 440 watts amplifier is split up into 4 zones, each with 110 watts per zone, you are getting the ability to separate your speakers into different zones and control the volumes of those zones separately. On top of that, each zone can be run at 4 ohms, 8 ohms, or 16 ohms, which means if you have 4 16 ohm speakers, you can run all of them off of one zone, or you can run 2 8 ohm speakers off of one zone. Let's take this into our house. I can have zone 1 be my kitchen, while zone 2 is my living room, zone 3 is the outdoor patio and backyard area, and zone 4 is our bedroom. In each of those zones, I can have an assortment of different 16 ohm, 8 ohm, and 4 ohm speakers as long as the total doesn't exceed 110 watts per zone and the minimum impedance doesn't fall below 4 ohms. And then for each of those 4 zones, I have control over the volume as well as a 3-band bass, mid, and treble EQ so that I can really fine-tune the sound around each zone and room. But now where the Rock Matrix differs from other multi-zone amplifiers is with the input matrix routing for the 4 zones. That might sound confusing, but it's actually quite simple. I have 4 channels on this amplifier that I can run inputs into to get signals into the Rock Matrix. Now from these line inputs, I can connect various devices like a computer through RCA, or I can even connect a smartphone or tablet through Bluetooth. And then the matrixing allows me to have both of those inputs playing, and I can decide what zone I want them to play out of. So if I want, I can have one input device and play it through all 4 zones, or I can have multiple input devices and route them specifically to different output zones. If we go back into our house, I can have the news playing in the kitchen while I listen to more upbeat music in the backyard patio area. Now don't worry if you're still a little confused, because we actually have a demo set up to explain everything, so let's go check that out right now. Alright guys, we are all set up with our demo here. We got the Rock Matrix 4 all hooked up. Let me explain really quick. So we're using all 4 of the zones that you can use on the Rock Matrix 4, and I'm running 2 speakers, 8 ohm speakers down to a 4 ohm load on each zone. So I got 2 ceiling speakers, which are my zone 1. I got 2 ceiling speakers in that room, which is our zone 2. I got 2 ceiling speakers on this, which is our zone 3. And then I threw in some 8 ohm wall speakers, and that's going to be our zone 4. And remember, each zone has the capability of running at 4 ohm, 8 ohm, and 16 ohm. So if you had 4 16 ohm speakers, you could run them off of 1 ohm. It just depends on your setup and what you want. But now let's take a look at the front of the unit, and let me try to break this down in the most simplest terms. So the left side of this, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 input channels. That's going to be how we're getting sound into the Rock Matrix 4. So all of the 4 input channels actually have a microphone input, so you can actually plug in a mic to each one. I have one plugged into input 1. I can talk into it and you can hear me come through all of the ceiling speakers over here. You can use this if you're having a party in your home, or even if you want to just annoy your kids and call them down to the kitchen. On channels 1 and 2, we also include a phantom power button if you want to use a condenser microphone on those. Now, channels 1 and 2 also have a 1/4 inch input, and that's for line level signals, while channels 3 and 4 have RCA line level in. But channel 4 also acts as our MP3 module, which is how we connect through Bluetooth. Just make sure you engage that MP3 button so that it's using the front Bluetooth module. Now, each of the 4 input channels also has a high and low 2-band EQ so that you can really fine tune what's coming in to your liking, as well as a gain knob to set the level coming in, and a volume knob to set the level going out. Now, a quick and easy way to tell which channels are corresponding to inputting is by looking at these LED buttons over here. So the channels that have these LEDs over here are inputs, while the channels that have the buttons at the bottom over here are our output zones. Now, basically, you can flip through the different inputs by clicking this input selector. So right here, there is an LED that's illuminated. That means I am on channel 1. So if I click input selector, it's going to move over here, which means I'm now on channel 2, channel 3, channel 4, and you can just cycle through that. Now, these other LEDs are letting me know which zones I'm outputting through. So you'll see a 1 over there. If I click output selector, this input is now going to play music through zone 1. If I click zone 2, it's also going to let that music be heard through zone 2. Same thing with 3 and 4. So I can really select what input is going to what output. So remember, I have 4 different zones that I can play music through, and I can decide which music is coming through those zones. So let me just give you a really quick example so you can visualize it. I have my iPad, it is on input 3, so I'm gonna go over to input 3, and now if I play music right now, you're not gonna hear anything because I don't have any of the zones selected. So if I click zone 1, you're gonna hear it come through zone 1, which is these 2 ceiling speakers above me. If I click zone 2, turn off zone 1, you can't really hear it, but it's in the other room. If I click turn off that zone, and I click zone 3, you can hear it right above you. If I turn that off and click zone 4, you're gonna hear it on these wall speakers. And then what I can do is have all of them play. Now it's coming through all 4 zones. So this really gives me a lot of flexibility to what the music is coming out of and where it's coming out of. So we talked really quickly about the input side, the left side. Let's talk about the right side really quick. So we kind of have the same type of options. We have our high, mid, and low 3-band EQ, so you can really fine-tune each speaker and get it sounding exactly how you want, as well as our volume knob, so how loud each zone is. And then at the bottom we have a quick mute button which you can click and it'll just turn off that channel completely so you don't hear any sound coming through there. Now one of the things that makes the Rockmatrix 4 so unique is that you can have multiple input devices playing through the Rockmatrix 4 and have them outputting through different zones. So let me give you an example. I can take my iPad, which is hooked up through channel input 3, and play music through one zone, while I take my iPhone, which is hooked up through Bluetooth and channel input 4, and play music through another zone. So they can be completely different music, and let me show you what I mean really quick. So I'm going to go to channel 3 really quick. You know we're on channel 3. I'm going to set it so that it's just going through zone 1, which is going to be these 2 speakers over here. So on channel 3, I'm only outputting music through zone 1, and I'm going to start playing soft jazz. You can hear that come through. Now my phone is on channel input 4. So I'm gonna go to channel input 4, and I'm only going to select channel 3 zone outputting. That's going to be the 2 speakers in the back. So this is playing soft jazz. Now I'm gonna press play on this. You see it's playing completely different music all the way through. It sounds kind of crazy right now, but basically it's able to process both of those input devices and play music through them at the same time, which is crazy complex, but it is able to do that with a lot of efficiency. So just from that quick demo that I just showed you, you're able to take 2 different input devices, put them through different zones and play different music through them, and then control them all independently, so you have full control over every sound that is coming through the Rockmatrix 4. This is super cool because you can set the mood and vibe of each room in your house. For example, if I want to listen to the news in the kitchen, I could have that on my iPad. Well, if I want to listen to music outdoor on my outdoor patio, I can hook up my phone and play different music, all routed through the Rockmatrix 4. Or maybe you have guests over and you're having a party, you can have one room listening to one type of music, while the kids in the other room listen to their own type of music. And the really cool thing that we added is 1/4-inch line outputs on each zone, so you can send the signal even forward. I have a Rockshaker 10 here, that's a powered subwoofer. I was actually outputting that out through zone 1, but you could send it to powered speakers, a powered mixer for bigger setups. So the system is fully expandable. So hopefully this brief demo showed you just how versatile and smart the Rockmatrix 4 is with inputting and outputting, but let's go check out some other features on it. On the back of the unit, we have all of our inputs. Each of the 4 input channels have an XLR microphone input, as well as either a 1/4-inch or RCA line input. Both input channels 1 and 2 have a phantom power button if you want to use a condenser microphones on these channels, and channel 1 has a mic priority button, which means if you're playing music through channel 1 and talking to the mic at the same time, it'll lower the music so the voice comes through more. Input channels 3 and 4 have RCA inputs, and channel 4 acts as our Bluetooth channel. You just have to click this MP3 button in, and then it will let you use the Bluetooth module, which is the controller on the LCD on the front of the unit. This also allows you to use the USB and SD card inputs. Now we also have a 1/4-inch fire input and Euroblock wire terminals for the siren to integrate with a fire system to use this hub as part of the fire alarm in your home. And right next to that, we have all of our zone output terminals, which are now Quick Connect Euroblock terminals, which makes connecting and wiring much easier and cleaner to do. Your negative or black speaker wire end always goes into the COM terminal here, and then your positive or red speaker wire end goes into whatever option you want to wire for that specific zone. Now on top of the ohm options, we can also use this matrix for 70 volt or 100 volt setups. This is really cool because on one zone you can have 100 volt or 70 volt speakers, and then on another zone you can have like 4 16 ohm speakers run down to 4 ohms. The possibilities are endless. quick note on the output playback is that it is all dual mono, which means that each speaker that you have in the system will play exactly the same thing and not separate between left and right. However, if you do want to create a stereo sound, there is a way to do it by taking a Y cable from your input source device and running one end into channel 1 and the second end into channel 2. Then you just send channel 1 to zone 1 and channel 2 to output zone 2. And it will essentially run the left and right mix through those different zones. Now each zone also has a 1/4 inch line output to send the signal of that zone to a powered mixer, speaker, or subwoofer, depending on what your setup requires and if you want to expand even more. There are even DC 24-volt terminals if you want to externally power this unit off a battery or use that as a backup in case you lose power. The Rock Matrix 4 is the smart brain that will be the hub of all your audio inputting and outputting in your setup, whether you use it in your home, office space, conference room, retail store, gym, restaurant, or more. So if you're looking for a 4-zone amplifier with matrix source routing, look no further than the Rock Matrix 4 from Rockville.